The Russian Ministry of Defense saw many changes in personnel. Russia has made progress over hundreds of miles of frontline territory. Russia's strategic base was attacked by Ukraine with cluster bombs. The Russian Ministry of Defense saw many changes in personnel. The Russian Ministry of Defense is experiencing strong upheaval when in the next month, 2 senior officials of the ministry will be arrested and witness a change in leadership. Recently, the Russian Ministry of Defense has witnessed many arrests of high-ranking ministry officials as well as changes in leadership personnel. 1 month arrested 2 high-ranking officials. The Russian Investigative Committee said it arrested Russian Deputy Defense Minister Timur Ivanov on April 23 and head of the General Department of Personnel of the Ministry of Defense Yuri Kuznetsov on May 14 on charges of accepting bribes on a large scale. Thus, in less than a month, 2 high-ranking officials of this ministry were arrested for corruption. According to Russian media, former Deputy Minister Ivanov was accused of receiving bribes of about 1 billion rubles, more than $11 million from military construction contractors. And Mr. Kuznetsov is accused of accepting bribes from representatives of commercial agencies to act in favor of this agency from 2021 to 2023, when he was head of General Department 8 responsible for protecting secrets. State secret of the General Staff of the Russian Armed Forces. Russian investigative journalist Andrei Soldatov told CNN that the arrests resemble a tactic used by Russia's General Security Service (FSB). That tactic is to arrest a high-ranking official to threaten and suppress violations of regulations in an entire ministry, branch, agency, or organization. According to journalist Soldatov, that subordinate will be questioned, not only about what he did but also about larger problems in the organization for which he works. Replacement of the leadership of the Russian Ministry of Defense. On the evening of May 14, Russian President Vladimir Putin officially appointed Mr. Andrei Belousov as Minister of Defense to replace Mr. Sergei Shoigu, according to RT. It is worth noting that Mr. Andrei Belousov has held important economic positions in the Russian government, including the position of First Deputy Prime Minister in charge of economics, and he has never worked in the military. Russia, but was appointed to this position. The Kremlin explained that Mr. Belousov is the best person to solve the economic problems facing the Russian military today and that the appointment is related to the need to make the economy of the security bloc part of the country's economy. Observers believe that Mr. Belousov's economic experience will help the Russian Ministry of Defense operate more economically, in the context of increased military spending, up to 6.7% of GDP, and by 2024, this country spends 1/3 of its budget on military. Besides, Mr. Belousov is a supporter of mobilizing the economy in the spirit of everything for the front line, everything for victory, so he can seek resources to supplement this effort. Similar to Mr. Putin's views, Mr. Belousov also advocates self-development of high technology such as chips, airplanes, unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, to end dependence on Western imports in the context of this country is surrounded and embargoed. According to the New York Times, the arrest of defense ministry officials and the appointment of a renowned technocrat for integrity as head of the defense ministry seem to be a signal that the Kremlin is now not turning a blind eye facing corruption in the military and will conduct a campaign to prevent this problem. This also shows that Moscow is focusing on managing military resources effectively to withstand the long-term war of attrition in Ukraine. Former Minister Shoigu disgraced? Mr. Sergei Shoigu has been Russia's defense minister since 2012 and is the longest-serving defense minister in Russian history, since the collapse of the Soviet Union. In that position, Mr. Shoigu experienced many of Russia's wars abroad, such as the war in Ukraine in 2014. 2022, and in Syria in 2015. However, in 2022, when the first phase of the special military campaign in Ukraine failed with the goal of a quick attack and capturing Kiev, Mr. Shoigu was more or less criticized for this strategic mistake. Russia has made progress over hundreds of miles of frontline territory. Available parameters show that Russia is unusually increasing its military concentration in the Donetsk region. It has been nearly 800 days since the Russia-Ukraine conflict broke out on February 24, 2022. The Hudson Institute has just published an article assessing the situation on the ground as well as the progress that the two sides have achieved in recent days. The article by the nonpartisan policy research organization based in Washington, D.C., USA, was published in Eurasia Review magazine on May 3. Battlefield Assessment. Last week, Moscow's widening artillery advantage and Kiev's feeble mobilization efforts allowed Russian forces to make significant advances on the battlefield and achieve tactical gains on multiple fronts. Matrix. Meanwhile, airstrikes and missile attacks continue in Ukraine. Russian and Ukrainian forces clashed violently, fighting positionally in the south and east. Satellite imagery and open-source intelligence show that the heaviest fighting in the east occurred around Bakhmut, Spern, Avdiivka, and Chasiv Yar, with Chasiv Yar remaining under the strongest pressure. In the south, Russia continues to focus on destroying Ukrainian positions in the areas of Robotyne, Kiev's most significant achievement since last summer's counteroffensive, and Krynky, Ukraine's landing beachhead on the left bank of the Dnipro River. Available parameters also show that Russia is unusually increasing its military concentration in the Donetsk region. Meanwhile, Russian engineering units are working to connect existing trenches with new fortifications extending to the Belgorod region in the east and the Zaporizhzhia region in the south. Russia has combined ground attacks with drone and missile attacks against Ukraine's energy infrastructure. This week, the Ukrainian Air Force reported an interception rate of about 60%. Meanwhile, Ukraine's energy ministry revealed that Russian attacks caused significant damage to facilities in southern and western Ukraine, including in Dnipropetrovsk, Ivano-Frankivsk, and Lviv. Russia's strategic base was attacked by Ukraine with cluster bombs. An image appeared on social networks depicting Russia's Belbek strategic airbase in Crimea being attacked by Ukraine with ATACMS missiles containing cluster munitions. On May 15, Russia announced that it had prevented Ukraine's attack with ATACMS missiles on the Crimean Peninsula. A pro-Russian official announced that 10 missiles containing cluster munitions were shot down when they aimed at the Belbek strategic base on the peninsula. However, images that appeared on social networks later showed an air defense radar system that appeared to have been destroyed. Sources say that Ukraine may have fired fire at the Russian air defense system located here, possibly S-300 or S-400 missiles. Russia has not responded to these speculations. Some sources quoted local residents as saying they heard about 20 explosions near the base. Some pro-Ukrainian news channels said that Kiev's attack may have destroyed the Russian plane, but so far there has been no evidence for the above claim. In addition, images allegedly recorded in Sevastopol on the Crimean Peninsula show M74 submunitions belonging to M39 ATACMS missiles falling on the ground. The M39 weighs 2 tons, is nearly 4 meters long with a solid rocket motor and a warhead containing 950 M74 submunitions. It can be fired with the HIMARS or M270 fire system. This line of missiles is suitable for attacking target groups on the ground because it has the ability to cause widespread damage, but cannot penetrate deeply through bunkers or tunnels. Can see Kong Quan Belbek O Ton Fo Sebastopol Hien La Noi Don Tru Nu Mai Bei Chien Dao Hien Dai Bao Gom Su 27 Ba Su 30 Kung Nu Mig 31. Trong Chien Dike Quan Su Dac Beat Quan Na Tai Ukraine. New Hot Dong Tok Chien Duong Kong Kwa Quan Doi Nada Duok Tien Han Tu Can See You Chien Luok Nai, Gay Ra Thiat Hai Lan Cho Phia Ukraine. Can See You Kong Quan Belbek Tu Lauda Duok Koi La Muc Tu Hong Dao Kwa Ukraine. Boy Vik Nan Duok Tem Lua ATACMS Tam Xa, Ko Du Don Cho Rang Kiev Se Tang Quang Tan Song Ko So Chien Luok Nai.